Most people live their entire lives believing they are doing the best they can, yet deep down, they sense something is missing. They feel trapped, powerless, and far weaker than they ever imagined they could be. And here's the hard truth. This isn't an accident. The majority of people, about 99%, remain weak not because of bad luck, not because of their environment alone, but because of the invisible patterns they've accepted as normal. Weakness doesn't always look like lying in bed all day or giving up on life. Sometimes weakness hides under the mask of being busy, constantly distracted, or endlessly chasing validation from others. It's subtle, and that's why it's dangerous. Think for a moment, how many times have you seen someone talk about their goals, their dreams, their ambitions, only to watch them drift back into comfort within a week? They say they'll get in shape, they'll start reading, they'll build that business, but then the excuses arrive like clockwork. I'm too tired. I'll start tomorrow. It's not the right time. These excuses feel harmless in the moment, but they are the very chains that keep people weak. And the saddest part, most don't even recognize they're wearing chains at all. The first reason 99% of people stay weak is that they surrender their minds to noise. From the moment they wake up, they are bombarded by distractions. The phone buzzes, notifications flood in, endless scrolling, meaningless news updates, all pulling their attention outward. A weak person allows themselves to be owned by this cycle. They don't protect their mental environment, so their thoughts are shaped by the chaos of others. Contrast that with strength. Strong individuals are ruthless with their attention. They know their mind is their most valuable asset, and they defend it like a fortress. When you protect your focus, you begin to separate yourself from the 99% who drift aimlessly through the noise. The second reason most people remain weak is emotional slavery. They react instead of respond. An insult arrives and they flare up. A setback comes and they collapse. Their emotions control them like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Weakness is not the absence of effort. It is the inability to master oneself. If you cannot control your reaction, then the world will control it for you. True power, the kind that separates the 1% from the rest, comes from owning your inner state regardless of external chaos. Imagine being unshakable when everyone else is panicking. That's the strength most never develop, because they are too addicted to their emotions to rise above them. Third, the 99% suffer from a deep addiction to comfort. Modern life makes it far too easy. Food delivered to your door in minutes. Entertainment available on demand. Endless escapes at the tap of a screen. Comfort is seductive, but it quietly robs people of their resilience. Weakness grows where challenge is absent. It's like a muscle. Unused, it shrinks. Strong people, on the other hand, deliberately seek discomfort. They place themselves in situations that demand growth. They train when they don't feel like it. They speak when their voice trembles. They risk failure instead of sitting safely in mediocrity. Strength is forged in discomfort, and yet most people run from it as if it were poison. Fourth, most people remain weak because they never build discipline. They live at the mercy of motivation, waiting to feel like it. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline, however, is the ability to act regardless of mood. Weakness thrives in those who only move when they are inspired. Strength belongs to those who move consistently, even on the dull days, even on the hard days, especially when they don't feel like it. Think of the difference. A weak person hits snooze, a strong person gets up. A weak person abandons their plan when it gets difficult. A strong person follows through. The gap widens every single day, until years later, the difference is massive. Fifth, the 99% seek external validation rather than internal standards. They want to be liked, to be accepted, to be approved of, even if it means betraying themselves. Weakness is living as a reflection of others. Strength is living from principles you refuse to compromise. When you no longer bend just to be accepted, you step into a power few ever touch. Ask yourself honestly, how many of your choices today were truly your own, and how many were shaped by the fear of judgment? This simple question reveals whether you are drifting with the weak or rising with the strong. And here is perhaps the most brutal reason most people stay weak. They lie to themselves. They convince themselves they are trying, that they are victims of circumstance, that someday things will change. They say, I'll start when I have more time. I'll improve once things settle down. But someday never arrives. Weakness feeds on self-deception. Strength begins with radical honesty. When you stop lying to yourself about your habits, your excuses, and your wasted potential, you create the possibility of change. Until then, you are stuck in the 99%. Now you may be wondering, so how do I escape it? And that's the critical shift, the reason you're here. Understanding why people stay weak is only the first half. Escaping it requires more than knowledge, it requires transformation. Throughout this journey, we are going to expose the patterns that hold the majority back, and more importantly, we will explore how you can rise above them. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about refusing to remain ordinary. It's about walking a path most will never dare to walk. It's about stepping into the kind of strength that makes you untouchable, not in some distant future, but starting right now. And as we go deeper, you'll see the contrast clearly. On one side, the 99%, distracted, reactive, comfortable, undisciplined, approval-seeking, dishonest with themselves. On the other side, the 1%, focused, resilient, disciplined, principle-driven, radically honest. Every choice you make is a step toward one side or the other. And here's the truth. Nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to drag you out of weakness and hand you strength. It's earned, not given. It's forged, not found. And that's why so few ever achieve it. But if you are listening to this now, you already have one thing most don't: awareness. Awareness is the seed of transformation. And if you water it with action, it grows into strength. So let's begin this journey together. Let's uncover not just why most people stay weak, but exactly how you can escape it. Because while the 99% live as shadows of their potential, you have the choice to break free. And that choice, made consistently, is what creates the rare individual who rises above the noise, above the chaos, above the weakness of the masses. This script is your roadmap. If you follow it, you will never again have to ask why people stay weak. You'll know the truth, and more importantly, you'll be living the escape. Escaping weakness is not about overnight transformation. It's about a process of deliberate, sometimes uncomfortable, but ultimately liberating choices. Weakness has been built layer by layer through habits, distractions, and illusions. Strength must be built the same way, layer by layer, decision by decision, with each choice carving out a new version of you. Most people fail here because they want results without sacrifice, they want growth without discomfort, and they want power without discipline. But the escape from weakness is not easy, and that is precisely why it is so rewarding. If everyone could do it, we would not be talking about the 99%. The first step to escaping weakness is reclaiming control over your mind. Picture your mind as a garden. Every thought is a seed. The majority of people let weeds grow freely: gossip, negativity, fear, comparison, envy. They do not choose their thoughts, they allow the environment to choose for them. But strong individuals are gardeners of their own mind. They are selective about what they plant. They read books that sharpen their perspective. They listen to ideas that challenge and strengthen them, and they avoid drowning in meaningless noise. If weakness begins in the mind, then so does strength. You cannot live powerfully if your thinking is weak. That's why the very first escape route is to take ownership of what you consume and what you allow to live in your head. The second step is mastering your emotions. Weakness thrives in those who are tossed around by anger, fear, jealousy, or despair. They lash out when they're insulted. They crumble when rejected. They spiral when faced with uncertainty. But emotional mastery means choosing your response instead of surrendering to reaction. Think about it. When you remain calm while others rage, when you hold steady while others panic, you gain power over situations that would destroy the weak. Emotional control doesn't mean suppressing feelings, it means directing them. Anger can become fuel for improvement. Fear can become a signal for growth. Even pain can become a teacher. Weakness interprets emotions as chains. Strength uses them as tools. The third step is discipline, and this cannot be overstated. Discipline is the backbone of strength. Motivation is fleeting, but discipline is sustainable. Weak people only move when inspired. Strong people move consistently regardless of how they feel. Discipline means you act according to principle, not mood. You train when it's inconvenient. You work when you'd rather procrastinate. You follow through on commitments even when the initial excitement fades. Discipline is what allows you to separate yourself from the 99%, because most people simply will not do the hard, boring, consistent work. They'll do it for a few days, then give up. That's why the rare person who stays disciplined becomes exceptional. Fourth, you must reframe your relationship with discomfort. Weakness avoids it at all costs. Strength embraces it. Discomfort is the training ground of growth. When you voluntarily step into cold water, hard conversations, challenging projects, or rigorous routines, you are teaching yourself resilience. You're conditioning yourself to endure what most cannot. The masses believe comfort equals happiness, but they fail to see that too much comfort breeds weakness, dependency, and stagnation. The strong deliberately walk the harder path, knowing that struggle sharpens them. Ask yourself, when was the last time you chose the hard option on purpose? That choice, repeated often, is what builds a resilient life. Fifth, the escape from weakness requires clarity of purpose. Without a direction, you drift. Weak people live reactively, pulled by circumstances, social pressure, or fleeting trends. They chase whatever feels urgent in the moment without asking whether it truly matters. The strong live differently. They identify what they value, what they are building toward, and they align their actions accordingly. Having a purpose creates a filter. Does this action bring me closer to my vision, or does it distract me? This clarity eliminates half of life's noise. Weakness comes from drifting. Strength comes from intentional living. Sixth, cultivate solitude. Weakness fears being alone because silence forces confrontation with the self. That's why people fill their days with distractions, conversations, and noise, anything to avoid facing their own thoughts. But strength grows in solitude. Time alone reveals what's truly going on in your mind, what fears you're hiding from, what lies you're telling yourself. Solitude allows reflection, and reflection allows growth. Many of history's strongest thinkers, warriors, and leaders used solitude as their forge. If you can be still with yourself, you can withstand the storms of the world. Seventh, build your body. Physical weakness feeds mental weakness. You don't need to be an athlete, but you do need to push your body. Exercise trains more than muscles. It trains discipline, pain tolerance, resilience, and consistency. When you make your body stronger, your mind follows. Weak people neglect their physical health, telling themselves they'll deal with it later. Strong people treat their body as a vessel that must be maintained for battle. Every push-up, every sprint, every disciplined meal choice is a rejection of weakness and an embrace of strength. Finally, the escape requires honesty. Radical, uncomfortable honesty. Weakness survives in denial. People tell themselves they're fine, that they're trying, that they're not that bad, but those lies keep them stuck. Strong individuals strip away illusions. They admit when they're wasting time. They admit when they're hiding in comfort. They admit when they've failed. And from that honesty, they create the possibility of growth. Weakness dies in the presence of truth. Honesty is the foundation upon which strength is built. These steps are not just theories, they are practices. And that's where most people fail. They listen, they nod, they agree, but they never apply. They treat wisdom like entertainment instead of transformation. That's why the 99% remain weak. They consume, but they don't act. Escaping weakness requires action, not just intention. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you actually applied even one of these principles with consistency. Picture how different your life would look in a year if you chose discipline over comfort every single day. Picture the version of you that could exist if you reclaimed your mind, mastered your emotions, built your body, and lived with radical honesty. That version is real, but it is hidden behind the choices most people are too afraid to make. And here's the paradox. Escaping weakness is difficult, but staying weak is even harder. The weak live lives of quiet frustration, unfulfilled potential, and constant regret. The strong endure hardship now to secure freedom later. Weakness is easy in the short term but unbearable in the long term. Strength is painful in the short term but liberating in the long term. Every day, you are choosing one of those paths. So ask yourself, which path are you on? Are you drifting with the 99%, seeking comfort, waiting for motivation, lying to yourself? Or are you willing to embrace the hard road, the disciplined road, the road that only the strong walk? The answer isn't in what you say. It's in what you do next. Because talk is cheap, but action is everything. The real test of strength is not found in moments of calm, but in moments of chaos. Anyone can appear strong when life is easy, when things are going their way, when comfort surrounds them. But when adversity strikes, when the ground shakes, when the unexpected happens, that's when the truth is revealed. This is why 99% of people never escape weakness, because when life tests them, they fold. They see difficulty as a signal to retreat, when in reality, difficulty is the invitation to become unshakable. Consider how most people respond to failure. They treat failure as evidence that they should stop. One setback, one rejection, one moment of embarrassment, and they retreat into their shell. They tell themselves, I guess it wasn't meant to be, or I'm just not cut out for this. This mindset keeps them weak because they view failure as a wall instead of a doorway. The strong interpret failure differently. To them, failure is a teacher, a mirror that reflects weaknesses to be addressed. Every failure is feedback. Every obstacle is an opportunity to grow. That's why strong individuals keep moving forward while the rest give up. Another defining difference lies in the way people view time. Weak individuals waste it endlessly. They scroll, they binge, they delay, they procrastinate. They treat time as if it were infinite, as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But strong people see time as the most valuable currency. They protect it. They invest it. They refuse to waste it on meaningless activities. They know that life is short and that every wasted day is a piece of their potential thrown away. Weakness thrives on distraction. Strength thrives on urgency. Ask yourself, if you knew your time was running out, would you live differently? The strong answer that question daily, and that's why their lives look different. Weakness is also revealed in the inability to face criticism. The 99% fear judgment so much that they never act boldly. They live cautiously, always concerned about what others will think. This fear of opinions keeps them small. Strong people, however, embrace criticism. They welcome feedback, even harsh feedback, because they know it is information that can sharpen them. They don't need universal approval. They only need alignment with their principles. If you are controlled by the opinions of others, you will forever remain weak, because your life will never be truly your own. Now let's talk about resilience. Weakness avoids pain, but strength endures it. Weak individuals break at the first sign of discomfort. They quit jobs, they abandon relationships, they drop commitments, all because things get hard. But strong individuals persist. They bend, but they do not break. They understand that storms are temporary and they use resilience as a shield. Imagine two people in a storm. One curses the rain, collapses under the weight, and gives up. The other plants their feet, lets the rain soak them, and keeps walking. Which one reaches the destination? The storm reveals the difference between weakness and strength. A critical aspect of escaping weakness is identity. Weak people identify with their limitations. They say, I'm just not disciplined, or I've never been good at this, or that's just the way I am. These statements solidify weakness because they turn temporary struggles into permanent identities. Strong individuals craft a different identity. They say, I am disciplined. I am resilient. I am capable of change. They speak strength into existence, and then their actions reinforce it. Identity is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you see yourself as weak, you will act weak. If you see yourself as strong, you will begin to act accordingly. The shift begins in the words you use to describe yourself. Another way weakness shows up is through avoidance. The weak avoid hard conversations, difficult truths, and uncomfortable realities. They avoid responsibility, preferring to blame others, circumstances, or luck. But avoidance only compounds weakness. Strong individuals face what they fear. They confront issues directly, even when it's uncomfortable. They take responsibility, even when it stings. They acknowledge reality, even when it's painful. Avoidance is the slow poison of the weak. Confrontation is the medicine of the strong. Let's also address consistency because this may be the greatest separator. Weakness is inconsistent. It shows up for a week, disappears for a month, starts strong but finishes weak. Weak individuals are full of bursts of energy but lack staying power. The strong, however, are consistent. They do not rely on short-term intensity. They rely on long-term persistence. Think of the person who goes to the gym every day for a year versus the one who goes intensely for 2 weeks and then quits. The difference after 12 months is obvious. Consistency beats intensity every time, and that is why the consistent rise above the 99%. The next piece of this puzzle is vision. Weak individuals see only the immediate. They're obsessed with short-term pleasure, short-term relief, short-term validation. They sacrifice the future for the present. Strong individuals flip the equation. They endure short-term discomfort for long-term gain. They delay gratification. They see the bigger picture and they act today with the future in mind. That's why they invest when others spend, train when others rest, and study when others waste time. Vision creates strength because it provides direction. Without vision, people drift. With vision, they persevere. Another difference: weak people are reactive, strong people are proactive. The 99% wait until problems arrive to act. They only change when forced. They live passively, letting circumstances dictate their choices. The strong act before they're forced. They anticipate challenges, prepare for difficulties, and take initiative. Instead of waiting for life to happen, they make life happen. This proactive mindset gives them control, while the reactive remain victims. And here's one of the deepest truths: weakness is contagious. Surround yourself with weak people and you will adopt their habits, their excuses, their mindset. Strength is also contagious, but you must deliberately choose it. The people you spend time with shape your standards. Weakness feels comfortable in groups because mediocrity loves company, but strength often requires walking alone, refusing to conform to the patterns of the masses. That's why strong individuals are rare. They are willing to stand apart, even to be misunderstood, in order to maintain their standards. So let me ask you, where in your life have you accepted weakness as normal? Where have you settled for distraction, comfort, or mediocrity? The truth is, escaping weakness requires brutal self-examination. You must be willing to admit where you've been soft, where you've been inconsistent, where you've been reactive. And then you must decide right now that those patterns end with you. Because if you don't, weakness will consume you. And you'll look back years from now, realizing you lived among the 99%, never tasting the power that could have been yours. Remember this: weakness is easy, but it is a thief. It steals your time, your potential, your legacy. Strength is hard, but it is a gift. It gives you freedom, respect, and self-mastery. The choice is simple, but not easy. Stay weak with the 99 or rise strong with the 1. Strength is not built overnight, and weakness is not erased in a single moment. It's the product of daily choices, stacked one on top of the other until they form a life. This is why so many people remain weak. They underestimate the power of small decisions. They think strength requires massive, dramatic acts, but in reality, it's forged in the smallest details. Whether you wake up when you said you would, whether you finish what you started, whether you keep the promises you make to yourself. These are the moments that determine whether you remain part of the 99% or rise into the 1%. Weakness thrives in self-betrayal. Every time you say you'll do something and you don't, you reinforce weakness. Every broken promise to yourself chips away at your self-respect. Eventually, you stop believing in your own word. You tell yourself, "I'll wake up early," but you know you won't. "I'll start tomorrow," but you know tomorrow will come and go. This cycle of self-betrayal becomes a trap, and escaping it requires a radical shift, deciding that your word is law. The strong live by this principle. If they say it, they do it. No excuses, no negotiation. Their integrity to themselves is non-negotiable. Let's talk about discipline because discipline is the bridge between weakness and strength. Weak people rely on motivation. They act only when they feel like it. If the energy is high, they push forward. If the energy is low, they quit. But motivation is fleeting, and that's why weak people fail. Strong individuals understand that discipline is superior. Discipline doesn't care about moods. Discipline doesn't wait for the perfect conditions. Discipline shows up no matter what. It is the anchor that keeps them steady when emotions sway. And over time, discipline compounds. The one who disciplines themselves daily builds an unshakable core, while the one who waits for motivation never builds anything lasting. The 99% also struggle with focus. Their attention is scattered. They try to do everything, and in doing so, they accomplish nothing. They chase trends, distractions, and shiny objects. Their minds are constantly pulled in 100 directions. Strength, however, is born from focus. Strong individuals choose one path and commit to it with relentless energy. They eliminate distractions. They protect their attention as fiercely as they protect their time. This is why they appear unstoppable, because while the 99% dabble, they master. Another trap of weakness is victimhood. Weak people see themselves as powerless. They blame their parents, their boss, the government, the economy, their circumstances. They believe life happens to them, not for them. This mindset guarantees weakness, because if you believe you have no power, you won't act. Strong individuals reject victimhood entirely. They take radical responsibility for their lives. They may not control everything, but they control how they respond. They know that blaming others robs them of agency. So instead of asking, "Why me?" they ask, "What can I do?" This shift in perspective transforms victims into victors. Courage is another dividing line. Weakness is paralyzed by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. This fear keeps them in the same place year after year while life passes by. But strong individuals feel fear and act anyway. They don't wait for fear to vanish. They confront it head-on. They know that courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. Every time they act with courage, fear loses its grip. This is why the strong grow stronger, because they refuse to let fear dictate their destiny. Another factor that keeps people weak is comfort. The 99% worship comfort. They seek soft beds, easy routines, predictable patterns, and safe choices. They avoid anything that stretches them, but comfort is deceptive. It feels good in the moment, but it robs you of growth. Strong individuals deliberately seek discomfort. They step into challenges. They push their limits. They understand that growth lives just outside the comfort zone. Each time they embrace discomfort, they expand their capacity, while the weak shrink into smaller versions of themselves. Let's not forget about energy. Weak individuals waste theirs carelessly. They spend hours in negativity, gossip, resentment, and trivial pursuits. They drain themselves with toxic environments and toxic habits. Strong individuals manage their energy like it's gold. They feed their bodies, sharpen their minds, and cultivate environments that empower them. They cut out negativity ruthlessly because they know energy is finite. With high energy, they can push further, endure longer, and achieve more. With drained energy, even simple tasks feel impossible. The strong guard their energy, while the weak let theirs leak away. Now let's examine relationships. Weakness seeks validation. The 99% surround themselves with people who make them feel good, even if it means staying stagnant. They want approval, not growth. They prefer friends who never challenge them. But the strong surround themselves with challengers. They seek mentors, role models, and peers who raise their standards. They would rather be uncomfortable and grow than comfortable and shrink. This is why they ascend, because they refuse to let relationships drag them down. Another overlooked quality is persistence. Weakness is impatient if results don't come quickly. The 99% quit. They want instant gratification. They expect rewards without sustained effort. But strength is patient. Strong individuals are willing to work for years without applause, recognition, or immediate payoff. They understand that mastery takes time and they trust the process. This patience gives them an advantage Because while the weak quit too soon, the strong are still standing, still working, still moving forward. There's also a spiritual aspect to strength. Weak people lack grounding. They drift without principles, changing direction whenever life pushes them. They compromise values easily, trading integrity for convenience. Strong individuals root themselves in unshakable principles. They live by a code. They know who they are and what they stand for, and this anchors them when storms arrive. Without principles, weakness rules. With principles, strength endures. Finally, let's talk about self-belief. The 99% doubt themselves constantly. They wait for external proof before they believe they are capable. They want the world to validate them before they act, but the strong reverse it. They believe first, act boldly, and create the proof through their actions. They understand that self-belief is the seed from which strength grows. Without it, nothing is possible. With it, everything becomes possible. So the question becomes, which choices are you making daily? Are you betraying yourself, chasing distractions, clinging to comfort, and blaming circumstances? Or are you building discipline, protecting your focus, seeking discomfort, and taking responsibility? Weakness and strength are both built one decision at a time. The 99% will keep choosing weakness and their lives will reflect it. But you have the chance to choose differently, to break the pattern, to reject the easy path and take the hard one, the one that leads to real freedom. The truth is, no one is born permanently weak or permanently strong. Both are habits, both are trained, both are cultivated. The difference is in what you practice. If you practice weakness daily, you will remain weak. If you practice strength daily, you will become strong. It's not about luck, it's not about circumstances, it's about choice. The strong simply choose differently, and they keep choosing differently until it becomes who they are. If you've listened this far, it means a part of you is ready to reject weakness. It means you sense the truth, that the life you've been living doesn't reflect your true potential. You've seen how weakness creeps in through comfort, through excuses, through fear, through distraction, and now you face a choice. You can continue down the easy road, the one that 99% of people follow, or you can step onto the harder road, the one that builds real strength. And make no mistake, the harder road is worth it, because it leads to freedom, respect, and self-mastery. The first step to escaping weakness is radical honesty. Stop lying to yourself about why you haven't succeeded. Stop pretending the excuses are real. Admit where you've been soft. Admit where you've chosen comfort over growth. This honesty will sting, but it will also liberate you. Weakness thrives in denial. Strength begins with truth. Once you can look in the mirror and admit the reality, you can start to change it. Without honesty, you will stay trapped. With it, you can begin to build. Next, you must set standards. Weak individuals have none. They let life happen, drifting wherever circumstances push them. But strong individuals live by standards that cannot be compromised. They decide how they will live, how they will act, what they will accept, and what they will refuse. These standards create a framework for their life. For example, I will not waste my mornings. I will not break promises to myself. I will not settle for mediocrity. The moment you set such standards and enforce them, weakness loses its grip. But standards mean nothing without action. This is where discipline comes in. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with one area where weakness has dominated you. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your focus. Maybe it's your courage. Choose one area, set a standard, and enforce it ruthlessly. Each time you uphold that standard, you add a brick to your fortress of strength. Over time, those bricks become unshakable walls that protect you from the weakness that once controlled you. One of the most important practices is mastering your environment. Weakness thrives in environments designed for comfort and distraction. Look around your life, your phone, your habits, your friends, your workspace. Do these environments make you stronger or weaker? If they make you weaker, change them. Remove distractions, limit temptations, cut ties with people who pull you down, and surround yourself with forces that push you upward. Strength is not just about willpower. It's about designing an environment where strength becomes the natural outcome. You must also cultivate resilience. This means training yourself to endure discomfort without breaking. You can do this in simple ways. Cold showers, fasting, pushing yourself in workouts, tackling difficult conversations, working longer than you thought you could. Each act of resilience trains your mind and body to handle adversity. When life inevitably throws storms your way, you'll be prepared because you've practiced strength in smaller storms. The 99% crumble under pressure because they never trained for it. The 1% thrive because they practiced resilience daily. Another cornerstone of escaping weakness is building an identity of strength. Identity drives behavior. If you still see yourself as weak, every action will reflect that. But if you begin to see yourself as disciplined, resilient, courageous, and unstoppable, your actions will start to match. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means choosing a new identity and proving it with consistent action until it becomes real. Tell yourself, I am the kind of person who does hard things. I am the kind of person who finishes what I start. I am the kind of person who doesn't quit. Then live it out. Over time, this identity will replace the old one. Let's also talk about courage, because without it, nothing changes. The 99% stay weak because they never take the leap. They wait until they feel ready, but readiness never comes. Strength requires courage, the willingness to act while afraid, the willingness to risk failure, the willingness to be judged. You must be willing to look foolish, to fall, to stumble, to face discomfort. Every bold action you take weakens fear's hold on you. Eventually, you'll look back and realize that the things that once terrified you are now the very things that made you strong. Consistency is the glue that binds it all. Weakness thrives on inconsistency. Strong for a week, weak for a month. Excited on Monday, defeated by Friday. The 1% rise above because they show up every single day, regardless of how they feel. They don't let moods dictate their actions. They don't rely on inspiration. They act day after day, stacking victories until their life reflects their strength. If you want to escape weakness, commit to consistency. Decide that no matter what, you will show up. Do this long enough, and you'll separate yourself from the 99% without even trying. Finally, understand this: escaping weakness is not just about you. When you choose strength, you become an example. You become someone your family, your friends, and even strangers look to for inspiration. Weakness is contagious, but so is strength. By rejecting weakness, you give others permission to do the same. You raise the standard not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. This ripple effect is how real change spreads. So here you are at the crossroads. On one side is weakness, easy, comfortable, familiar, but empty. On the other side is strength, hard, demanding, unfamiliar, but fulfilling. The 99% will choose weakness. They'll tell themselves stories, they'll make excuses, they'll cling to comfort. But you don't have to. You can choose the harder road, the one that leads to freedom. And years from now, when others are still trapped, you'll look back with gratitude that you made the choice to escape. Remember this truth: strength is not a gift, it's a decision. You build it step by step, choice by choice, day by day. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, focus over distraction, courage over fear, honesty over excuses, you build strength. And every time you choose the opposite, you feed weakness. There is no standing still. You are either moving toward weakness or toward strength. The choice is yours every single day. Don't wait. Don't tell yourself tomorrow. Don't let another year slip by with weakness ruling your life. Choose today. Choose now. Because the longer you wait, the deeper weakness digs in. And the sooner you act, the sooner you'll taste the freedom of strength. This is your moment. Decide. Escape the 99%. Step into the 1%. Build strength that cannot be shaken, no matter what life throws your way. And when you do, you'll realize something powerful. The life you always wanted was never out of reach. It was simply waiting for you to stop being weak and start being strong.